And this brings me to my third point, greater access to appellate courts. There should be a better way to get basic legal issues moved up the ladder for quick determination before staggering transaction costs are incurred in cases that turn on a point of law, especially those involving new or novel points of law. Business leaders would say it's fair to get it straight the first time. That's part of another old business maxim is do it right the first time. We recognize that appeals could be abused, and so streamlining would be necessary. It would call for a structure change in order for such a thing to happen. But the process needs to be looked at in regard to whether appeals on legal issues that govern cases could be more streamlined. A particular concern is appeal bonds. There needs to be a way to ensure that the defendant wakes up and finds himself with a huge verdict, can afford to appeal. Many times it is very difficult in a high verdict case to find and be able to get companies to bond the case. And in certain situations, that forces settlements, which should not be done at that time. The fourth area additional attention needs is the class action area. From a business perspective, it appears to businesses that the focus of the courts have been getting cases through the system, moving them along through the system, and not enough attention to due process. Individual defenses to claims have often been lost in the effort to manage the case. Due process in this regard should trump judicial efficiency every time. Courts need to watch for cases that can be used to force settlements simply because of risk and the expense. And every time a person that was not harmed or damaged gets money, every time a defendant is denied the right to present a meritorious defense against a claimant, confidence in the system from a business perspective is eroded, and certainly due process takes a hit. Fifth point is that judges must judge and not be intimidated by lawyers, professors, legislators, or businesses. Judges need to judge early and often and dismiss or limit cases in early stages if merited. And get those cases out of the way so that the cases that really need to be tried can get to trial. And do so before costs get out of hand. There's a feeling, there is a perception out there that judges defer legal rulings and defer to juries, saying they'll take care of the case law later. When in fact, early determination could help control the cost of the case. Business leaders often hear from their trial lawyers that we might make the judge mad if we make too many motions too early. You hear the same thing on appeal when they say if you make too many appellate points, that could cause a problem when you have a number of appellate points that are good. It's important that the common law, both the development and the restraint, is the ownership of the judiciary, and that the law and policy making is not left to juries because judges view their role as referees. Another issue is recusal, and this needs immediate attention and reform. Even the Supreme Court of this land recently couldn't take a case because of the lack of a quorum. And that is a denial of a fundamental right and a blemish on our system, and something that needs further consideration. Legislatures, in regard to judges judging, need to understand that if judges are going to judge and are going to do so quickly and wisely, they need more funding for law help. I submit that a number of you in here who are judges do not have the aid of a law clerk. And that is something that we're asking our judges and putting too much on our judges, and we're asking them to make complex legal decisions, not to have adequate help to manage these cases. And the legislatures need to understand this, basically on the premise that it pays to get it right the first time. As I said, another old business efficiency rule. Fundamental to our rule of law is predictability, and we need to continue to encourage the judiciary to maintain this culture of responsibility to the development of common law. The sixth area of reform that I think should be discussed is election reform. We simply need to get the money out of the process. The big money in these judicial races, and in many states, I think 39 states still elect their judges, and in many of those states, the cost of being elected is tremendous. And the judges have no place to turn but to the lawyers who appear before them in order to get contributions. This is toxic to the perception by the public. We all see what the partisan politics have come to, especially in today's few days running up to election. You can see how partisan politics have become very poisonous. And this is something that we need to figure out, and it cries out for a better way to select judges. Keep them on the bench so they can have the necessary experience. More importantly, to be independent, be educated both in law and economics, and be paid so that it is not the sacrifice that it is today. While there is concern with litigants fleeing the system, I think it is equally important that we should be concerned about judges fleeing the bench. Now, there are not yet favorable conditions existing for change in regard to judicial elections. I understand that. This goes all the way back to 1906 when Roscoe Pound warned that putting courts into politics and compelling judges to become politicians could destroy the traditional respect for the bench. But this is something we need to continue to work on, and it's going to take a while. But meanwhile, take comfort. Your approval ratings still beat Congress and oil companies.